people that are in detention at this moment across the country are people who have proceedings happening. They have actually been trying to be in compliance, and they're picked up when they go to their court hearings. So let me turn it over now to one of our senior members of the Judiciary Committee, and also a Georgia representative here in our congressional delegation in Georgia, Hank Johnson.
Thank you. I'm Congressman Hank Johnson, representing Georgia's 4th Congressional District. Happy to be here at the Stewart Detention Facility with my dear colleagues led by Pramila Jayapal, Congresswoman out of the great state of Washington. What we saw today was the worst of the worst, but it was not the inmates who were the worst of the worst. It was the facility that is among the worst of the worst in terms of these detention facilities, these for-profit, private detention facilities that are all across the country. Stewart Detention has a long history of denying basic human dignity and rights to detainees. And these detainees are not the worst of the worst. These are people who have been in this country for decades, have no criminal histories, and just simply snatched up in this Trump reign of terror since he took office. The Steve Bannon bandwagon that has been rolling throughout the country, collecting immigrants and then depositing them into facilities like Stewart Detention Facility, where they languish for months and even years at a time. We met an inmate who had been in detention for 26 months, 24 of which were spent right here in the Stewart Detention Facility, and that young man was bleeding from his mouth from tooth surgery, extraction of a tooth that was accomplished today after he had been incessantly trying to get something done about his tooth pain. So medical issues with food, issues with water, they run the whole gamut here at Stewart Detention Facility. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague from the state of Georgia, Georgia's 4th Congressional District, Nakima Williams.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Nakima Williams, and I represent Georgia's 5th Congressional District in Atlanta. And I am here today down in Lumpkin, Georgia, to do my oversight duties as a member of the House of Representatives. The United States House of Representatives has an authority to come into these detention centers across the country to find out exactly what is going on and to intervene on behalf of the people that are being detained. And they are people. They're not aliens. People are not illegal just because of the country that they're born in. And today, what I came to seek was answers. And unfortunately, the staff of CoreCivic, the staff of ICE, they did not have many answers for us, but that doesn't mean that we stop at this point. We have members of Congress here that are determined to get the answers so that we can provide the policies that change the conditions of which people are being detained in this country, because it is inhumane, and people should be treated with dignity and respect. Just because you have crossed the border with your parents at the age of 2, at the age of 3. This is the only country that you've ever called home. But yet they're being held captive in this detention center behind us as if they are hardened criminals. And what I know is that I'm going to continue to do this work because everyone in this country, regardless of where you're born, regardless of your documentation, should be treated with dignity and respect. That is my promise to the people that are detained here as a member of Congress, and I will continue to do my oversight duties regardless of the hurdles that they try and make us jump through. No one should be making a profit on the backs of people just trying to seek the promise of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me turn it over now to a member of the Immigration Subcommittee and a member of the full Judiciary Committee, Deborah Ross from North Carolina.
We just spent more than 4 hours at the Stewart Detention Facility. We saw a lot, but we didn't get a lot of answers. We're here from North Carolina because we don't have a detention facility, but this is where they send our people. 2 of the people who we met were from North Carolina. One of them swept up in the time when ICE was coming through North Carolina, when he was actually trying to get his paperwork sorted out. another one who's been in another Georgia detention facility and has experienced medical malpractice and disfigurement, disfigurement, and was transferred here. She said that this was worse than the other place that she had been. So we are here to tell the people who are being transferred here, we are paying attention, we're exercising our oversight, we are making sure that folks are accountable. We're also here to say we don't need another private detention facility in North Carolina in a remote area like what we've got here at Stewart. They've got bad water here, but the whole area has bad water here. You cannot make money off the backs of immigrants and poor people. It is inhumane, it is unjust, and it is your taxpayer dollars, at least $150 a day, to hold people who shouldn't even be in detention in the first place. This has got to stop. Now I'll turn it over to my colleague from North Carolina, Valerie Foushee.
Thank you, Congresswoman Ross. I am Congresswoman Valerie Foushee from North Carolina's 4th Congressional District. So this is my first oversight visit to a detention center. It just happens that I got my initiation from one of the worst in this country. As you heard, 2 of the detainees that we met with today are from North Carolina. It was heart-wrenching to hear them talk about their stories and the family members that they have left. For the gentleman whose wife is in end-stage renal disease, she's not getting the proper care, and he's worried more about her than he is about himself. He has medical issues himself that are not being addressed. The female detainee that we met with is also having issues with her daughter. And so for people not to be able to have contact and have to constantly be worried about the conditions of their family members back home is another level of cruelty that has been added to the condition under which they live. We did get a whole lot of answers, but we saw a lot of things. One of the things I saw that I cannot unsee was what appeared to be mold on the ceiling in one of the detention areas. So again, we're here to do the oversight to make sure that those hundreds of billions of dollars that are going to detention centers, there is an accounting for them, and that we can do away with this cruel and inhumane treatment. So thank you.
Thank you so much to my colleagues. We also did, at the end, after visiting the detention center, after speaking with some of the detainees, we went to a trial for one of the detainees. And this is a mother of 3 young kids. The oldest, I think, is going to be a senior in high school. And I was struck by the cruelty of generational trauma that we're inflicting. These children can't be with their mother. 2 of the children have medical issues, asthma, other issues. The one daughter had gained tremendous amount of weight since her mother's been in detention. So every single person we saw today is a human being, a son, a daughter, a husband, a wife, a sister, a parent, a mother, a father. And the kind of cruelty and generational trauma that we are creating is unspeakable. It's unknowable. It's unquantifiable. So we are going to continue to do everything in our power, both for the detainees that were able to meet with today, but also for the right to conduct our accountability oversight, because we had so many hurdles put in our way. Right. We were told multiple times that we had to leave, that we couldn't stay, that we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. And, we just said we're not leaving until we're able to do this. And so we stayed beyond the original 90 minutes that they told us that we had. Members of Congress authorize the funding that comes to places like this. Now, none of us authorized funding for this detention center, because we don't believe that these detention centers should exist. We do not approve of the hundreds of billions of dollars that has gone to ICE and CBP. But we still have our constitutional responsibilities to do oversight. So with that, we're happy to open it up for any questions.
What comes next after this visit, after seeing all of the things you guys saw today? What kind of, for y'all, is the next step in addressing this?
I think there's sort of three different pieces to it. One is we have a list of follow-up questions specifically for this detention center, information that they're supposed to send us, as well as questions that we asked and want to follow up on asking. So we're going to follow up on the specific issues here. We're also going to follow up on the specific cases of the detainees that we met with. Listen, we have to humanize these individuals, and we have to let people understand who is being held in these facilities. It is far from this idea of the worst of the worst. These are incredible human beings, but it is very traumatic and difficult for them to be kept in here for up to 2 years, a year, and in these conditions. And then the third is that we have to stop what's going on. I mean, that is, obviously, we're in the minority right now. I believe we are going to take back the majority as Democrats, and we are going to stop this cruelty that is happening to people across this country. I am an immigrant. I'm one of only 24 naturalized citizens to serve in the United States Congress. I came here at 16 years old by myself because I believed in the promise of America. That promise of America was nowhere to be seen in those walls today. So we will do everything we can to reverse these policies and to have humane policies, immigration policies that respect the contributions and the tremendous strength and courage and resilience of immigrants who come to America.
Core Civic, which is a publicly held corporation making profits, paying its executives millions upon millions of dollars per year and returning their shareholders millions and millions of dollars a year in profit. Well, this private corporation owns this Stewart Detention Facility. Why would we have $1 billion company paying detainees $4 a day, working 5 hours per shift, 3 shifts per day, preparing the food for the fellow inmates? I mean, this whole racket is taking money directly from the taxpayers, the people, the wage earners of this country, those who don't have the tax breaks that the wealthy have, and putting it directly into the hands and pockets and pocketbooks of these ultra wealthy people. They are profiting off of human misery. Is not right, and we're going to continue to fight to reverse it.
I was wondering if you could go a little bit into the specifics of the follow-up questions you have and some of the oversight questions that you asked about today, but we're not getting the answers.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it had to do with the specific conditions and the demographics of who's being detained. We asked very basic questions like, how many people are here without any conviction? How many people are here with a minor, traffic ticket, for example? We couldn't get answers to those basic questions. We asked for a list of the countries. They said they would get back to us on some of these, but I will tell you that I've been to, as I mentioned, many inspection visits across the country. I rarely get answers to the questions, even when we submit them in writing. We noticed this huge discrepancy between what they tell us and what the detainees tell us. That was across the board. On medical care, they said everyone gets care within 24 hours. That is simply not what we've heard. They said that there was no problem with the water. That is not what we heard. We heard reports, both in meeting with advocates who represent people at the detention center all the time, as well as with detainees today, that the water comes out of the taps black. And that one detainee had told us that there was a sock over the tap, over the faucet, just to kind of control the stream of water, and that there was so much black stuff in the sock because of the water coming out. Several of them told us that they don't drink the water. They go to the commissary and buy bottled water. The medical care issues have been severe. I mean, one of the top reasons that 911 is called here at Stewart is head injuries. I asked why that's the case. Why is head injuries one of the top reasons that 911 is being called? And there was really no answer to that, no interest in investigating it. Others that I missed, colleagues?
I would say the fact that they just add beds to increase capacity.
Yes, that was a big one.
Yeah, they couldn't even answer the question about what their capacity really
capacity?
is.
Yeah, they just add more bunk beds and say that the capacity is increased. So we asked, what is the maximum amount that you would put in here? Do you just keep adding beds? They couldn't tell us that. Teeth, medical care, the answer to tooth pain, and we heard this from two separate detainees who did not know what the other was saying, that when they have tooth pain, they just say, we're going to pull the teeth. So both of the detainees had had teeth pulled. In fact, one had had it pulled today and was bleeding in the room with us. We asked that he be sent back to medical care because he was bleeding. He was just taking some tissue paper and trying to stem the flow of blood. This is not medical care to say you've got tooth pain, we're going to pull the tooth. And that was told to us from a couple of different detainees.
You guys mentioned that they wouldn't tell you kind of what their capacity is and that it just keeps expanding with those bunk beds. Do you know how many people are in there right now?
Yes, right now they said the capacity was 1,966, and I believe they said it was 1,931 in there. I might have those numbers. It was either 1,913 or 1,931, but very close to capacity.
This is a question mostly for the Georgia delegation members who are here, but you guys are also welcome to weigh in. This detention center is in Representative Sanford Bishop's district, which was seen as kind of a prime target for redistricting in Georgia, had that gone ahead. And since there's speculation that the legislature might come back and redraw the districts after the midterm elections, I'm curious to hear from you what it would mean for this area to lose Democratic representation and for that to be chipped away at.
So I don't think it's just this area. It's what it will mean for the state and what it means for the country to continue, as we have seen our Republican colleagues do and this president, to come after black representation in this country. And it is not unique to just right here in Southwest Georgia, but we're continuing to see this across the country. And what we saw in Georgia was that people stood up. They used their voice. They showed up to the state capitol on the very first day of the special session, and the Republican leadership in Georgia said, wait a minute, we don't want the people who showed up here today to use their voices, their advocacy, and to organize against us in this election cycle. The people are not going to sit back and allow people to continue to live in this condition. They're not going to sit back and allow black representation to be erased in this country. So what I know is that the people will continue to have the final say. We'll have the final say on the ballot in November when we make Congresswoman Jayapal the chairwoman of the Immigration Subcommittee in the Judiciary, and when we elect Speaker Hakeem Jeffries as the first Black Speaker of the House. So we have work to do between now and November, but my path and my sight is clear on what we need to do to fix these conditions, and it is getting the right leaders in office so that we can change the policies that make this possible.
All right. Anybody else?
Thank you for
Okay.
coming out.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
You guys spoke a lot about the inadequate health care and the food conditions and stuff like that. I was just wondering if you also saw any evidence of that improper use of force today.
Improper use of force? No, we didn't. And, you know, one of the challenges for us, I've been in Congress for 10 years and doing this work for 20 before coming to Congress, is the ways in which this Trump administration, this DHS, has tried to limit our access to the facility. And so that has happened in a number of ways. I mean, we had to go to court to sue and say, no, actually, as members of Congress, we can come and do unannounced visits, and you have to let us in. We can do announced visits, and you have to let us in. But when we do an unannounced visit, it's not always clear we're going to get in. So because we were bringing people from other states, and because I really wanted to make sure to see it, we announced our visit today. Despite that, we were then told we only got a 90-minute visit. I said we're not leaving until we're done with our questions, and we wanted to see a couple more things. We wanted to see solitary confinement, but hurdle put in the way. That's another 20-minute conversation to get there. They tried to stop us from going to the court. We said you don't control the court. The court is, you can go, the public can go into a hearing. We had approval from the attorney to do that. So it's very difficult to sort of see what is happening because they won't allow us, another example, they won't allow us onto the floor just to talk to detainees. That never used to be the case. during first family separation, during the first Trump administration, I went into a federal prison and talked to over 200 families who had been moms who had been separated from their children. Talked to them one-on-one for hours. That is not the case today. We're not allowed into the pods to talk to detainees unless we have a privacy release form. So we don't get to see a lot of what actually happens. One detainee that we did speak with told us that they were cleaning up the showers before we got there. That they were all, the staff was cleaning the showers.
One-on-one.
One-on-one. Yeah.
We did hear from the detainee, the one who experienced serious medical malpractice and abuse in another detention facility, that there's verbal abuse at this detention facility, and disrespect, and telling people that they're not worth anything. And when you're being held for 2 years, you know, sometimes mental abuse is just as bad as that physical abuse.
Actually, we heard from two
Yeah.
other detainees.
No, and I was just looking at some of my notes. They said we're treated like dogs.
Exactly.
We're nothing here. They tell us you're nothing here. One person said, someone who's running from a dictatorship, how do we go to an embassy? I mean, these are folks who have valid asylum claims that are still in here. Another one said, this is like a war. You know, I cannot complain because this is like a war. People are just coming in and out. It was heartbreaking. It was really heartbreaking.
And
Yeah,
for the detainee, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And for members of Congress to take their time, travel 3 hours to get to this facility, and then be told that you've got to leave your phones and your watches, your smart watches, in your car, and then we get in only to find the whole staff with 2 and 3 phones that they're operating right there while we're sitting there talking to them, and we're deprived of our phones. We're the ones that are setting your budgets, authorizing your paychecks, and then you tell us that, you know, our time is limited here. You got 90 minutes. So I want to applaud our chair for stretching our hour and a half out to about 4 hours. Yeah, but that was not without a fight, and we had to
tough.
Yeah, we had to fight to come in here and do our oversight on behalf of the American citizens. And that's a shame.
Representative Johnson's point is so important because Article 1 of the Constitution grants us the sole authority to fund and to have oversight over these kinds of things, including detention. And so we're going to keep doing this. We hope to advocate for the specific detainees that we saw, as well as for all those who are in here and really should not be in here. I've got a bill to end detention, private detention. There are lots of ways that people can be treated with alternatives to detention. This is a civil process, not a criminal process. So thank you all so much for being here, and thank you so much to my colleagues, incredible colleagues who are fighting every single day to make sure that we protect the rights of every single person in this United States of America.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can do it really quick. I'm the mistress of the
Absolutely. Jennifer, is it okay if we do some direct cameras with members, or are we trying to get to go?
So we have maybe like 30 minutes if you want to get on the road.
Okay. I'm gonna do. Yeah.